Hello, everyone. In this lecture, we'll be looking at the poem The Highwayman, written by Alfred Noyes. So, about the poet, Alfred Noyes is an English poet who captured the romantic spirit of the Victorian and Edwardian eras. He wrote the poem Highwayman in the year 1906, creating one of the most beloved narrative poems in English literature. His lyrical style and gift for storytelling transformed a simple tale of love and loss into an enduring masterpiece that continues to captivate readers more than a century later. So, this poem is, even though structured like a poetry, it has a story, it is in the narrative form, and therefore we look at the story. We look at the story based on how it starts and how it ends. So, the poem begins with the introduction of the title character, let's call it the highwayman, who is approaching the inn door, approaching the inn on his horse late at night. And he is, like I mentioned, riding his horse and approaching the inn, knocking on the window. And then there is a beautiful girl who approaches the window, opens it, and looks out at the highwayman. Here we get to know that both these characters are lovers, and she was expecting the highwayman to reach there and meet her. So there is a beautiful interaction happening between both the characters, and the girl's name is Bess, who is the landlord's daughter. So while they both are interacting at the same time, we find that there is another man who is looking at them, who is jealous and looking at them, because this man is also very much in love with this beautiful girl, Bess, and his name is Tim, who is the ostler. So at the same time, we see love and jealousy, because one character or two characters projecting love, and we have Tim who is projecting jealousy. So when these two characters are having conversation, the highwayman promises her that he's now going to loot a place and he'll be back the next day. If not by daylight, by nightfall, he'll surely meet the girl, meet Bess. Even if hell should bar the way, that is how he tells her. Even if death approaches him on the way, he will reach. He will reach the girl. He will meet her at night. So, this conversation is what Tim listens to, and he utilizes it and tells about this to the soldiers, to the red troops, the soldiers of the king. And the next day, the girl is waiting patiently for the arrival of the highwayman, but surprisingly, it is not the highwayman who reaches the inn, but it is the red troops. Those soldiers approach the inn. They barge into the inn. They tie Bess onto the bedpost and they are waiting near the window. So, on every window, you can see death awaiting the highwayman. They wait for a long period of time. Bess is tied to the bedpost. Somehow she struggles. She tries to untie the knot, but she is not successful. But somehow she is able to loosen the knot. And there is a muzzle, there is a pistol that is placed next to her, and she somehow, and the muzzle of the pistol is pointing right towards her chest, and somehow by loosening the note she is able to get, or her fingers are able to touch the trigger. That is when she listens to the riding of the horse. She is able to listen to the horse, the highwayman approaching the inn once again, and in order to warn her lover of the danger that is awaiting him in the inn, she pulls the trigger and she shoots herself, kills herself. The highwayman is unaware of who has been shot or who is that figure standing near the window leaning onto a gun. He is unable to see anything and he rushes away from this place. It is only the very next day that he gets to know it is his lover, his sweet Bess, who has killed herself in order to warn her lover, and he is crazy. He goes crazy, and he somehow wants to rush back to Bess and also kill all the soldiers, but on the way he is shot dead by the red troops. And that is how both the characters, both the lovers, meet their end. And even after many years, legend is that even now people see the highwayman riding on the horse and approaching the inn door, and there's a beautiful girl who is waiting there. So this story has become a legend, and even after their death, the story lives, and also the characters are still existing. That is what the legend is. So this is what the plot of the poem is. Now, talking about the characters, like I mentioned, there are three characters, and the three characters are revealed in the first part of the poem itself. Now, when you look at the structure of the poem, there are two structures, but in the end, you can also say that the final two stanzas can be considered as another part. So, there would be three parts to the poem. The first part is where we are introduced to all the three characters: the highwayman, Bess, who is the landlord's daughter, and Tim. And now we can also consider the red troops to be the another character, because they also play a significant role in the whole poem. So, the highwayman, he is a dashing romantic figure dressed in velvet and lace, bold and passionate. He lives dangerously but loves deeply. His devotion to Bess proves stronger than his fear of death. So, he is presented as a man who is dressed very well. So, this is how the contrast is being presented between the highwayman and Tim. One is dressed very well, whereas the other is shown like a madman, a crazy madman. Now, Tim the ostler, the jealous stable hand, whose unrequited love for Bess drives him to betrayal. His actions set the tragedy in motion, making him the villain. So, if you look at it like a film, we have a hero, we have a heroine, then we have a villain. So, that is what Tim the ostler would be. Then we have Bess, the landlord's daughter, who's beautiful and courageous with long black hair like a waterfall. Her love for the highwayman transforms her into a tragic heroine who makes the ultimate sacrifice to save him. And red troops, who are King George soldiers, they represent law and order. They are the antagonists who trap Bess and ultimately kill both lovers, yet they are merely doing their duty. So when you look at it, even though we call the red troops as they are the ones who set things in motion, but they are simply doing their duty, and we can consider the villain Tim to be the villain of the whole poem. Moving on to the themes of this particular poem. First is romantic love, the passionate love between the highwayman and Bess. Then there is sacrifice and loyalty. So Bess, the character Bess, is sacrificing her love in order to save the highwayman, which is also evident in the poem. Then rebellion and outlawry. The highwayman represents romantic rebellion against authority, because towards the end you can find how when he gets to know about Bess's death, he is marching, he's rushing towards the inn. So even though he is a criminal, his life is romanticized over here. Then death and immortality. Like I mentioned, towards the end of the poem, we get to know that the legend is still alive. So even though both the characters die, their stories are still alive, and people even have said that they see both these characters. So it's like their spirits are still roaming around. So even after death, their love is immortal. Now, looking at some of the other elements in the poem, you can find there is rhythm and repetition. These are some of the stylistic features of the poem. So, you can find that when the poet talks about the movement of the horse, there is a rhythm. The poet says that clot, 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 clot. That is how the horse hooves are. Sound of the horse hooves are mentioned. So you can find there is a rhythm, and certain lines are also repeated in order to maintain that stylistic element in the poem. Then vivid imagery. Every line bursts with sensory details like the jewel sky, the long black hair, the blood red wine, etc. All these words, there is also all these words denote an imagery. Then finally, we have symbolism. The moon represents witness and time, while the color red symbolizes both passion and violence. The highwayman itself becomes a metaphor for life's dangerous journey. So, all these words, represent something else. There is a symbolic relevance to all these things. And finally, looking at the critical perspectives, The poem has a romantic tradition to it, and also there are some Gothic elements in the poem. You can find the poem draws heavily on romantic ideals. Nature has witnessed emotion over reason, the glorification of outlaw. So, all this talks about the romantic ideals, gives us a hint of the romantic ideals. But at the same time, you can find Gothic elements, talking about the ghostly galleon, talking about the spirits. So, all these imply the Gothic element in the poem. Now, talking about the modern relevance of the poem, even today the poem is being discussed. It is being adapted into movies or plays or even songs. You can find the modern relevance of this particular poem. Despite its historical setting, the poem's theme of love, sacrifice, and injustice remains profoundly relevant. Contemporary readers still connect with Bess's courage and the lover's devotion across centuries. So, with this, we have come to the end of the discussion of the poem The Highwayman. Thank you.